Sunlight spilled through the glass walls of Chicago O'Hare as Ethan Wallace moved through the crowds. At only 10 years old, Ethan clung to his mother's handwritten note, tucked securely in his backpack beside his ticket to Los Angeles. His stride was gentle but determined, contrasting with the hurried adults around him. He wore a neat polo, khaki pants, and spotless white sneakers, clothes chosen for comfort and respect. Ethan was quiet but observant, feeling both proud and nervous. His mother's words echoed in his mind. Dignity is your armor. Kindness is your strength. Today was his first solo flight, a challenge he accepted with hope and a flutter of uncertainty in his heart. Boarding began with the usual flurry of activity. Ethan handed his documents to the gate agent, who blinked with surprise at the lone, serious boy holding a first-class ticket. "Traveling alone?" she asked gently. Ethan nodded, explaining his aunt would meet him in Los Angeles and that his mother arranged everything. The agent smiled reassuringly and returned his papers, wishing him a good trip. Felt a wave of pride. Stepping onto the shiny Vera jet, he eyed the plush seats, the busy flight attendants, and the passengers chatting in low, comfortable voices. For a moment, Ethan believed he truly belonged among them. Ethan settled into seat 2A by the window, placing his backpack carefully beneath the seat. He watched the other passengers, the businessmen in tailored suits, the older woman with a string of pearls, a mother calming twin toddlers. Some glanced at him, curiosity flashing in their eyes. Ethan noticed, but didn't flinch. Years of careful lessons had taught him to move quietly, graciously, and without confrontation. He opened his book, letting the written world pull him away from the nervous glances. Yet beneath his calm, a subtle worry crept in. Would everyone accept him here? Clara Monroe, a tall flight attendant with sharp eyes, approached Ethan. Her voice was polite but tense. "Young man, are you supposed to be here?" Ethan looked up calmly and responded that his ticket matched this seat and that he was traveling alone. Clara frowned, reviewing the paperwork, clearly unsure. She questioned Ethan further, her tone suspicious and cold. Other passengers began to notice the exchange, sensing something was off. Ethan felt pressure build inside. He remembered his mother's advice to remain respectful and strong. Clara's doubts hurt, but Ethan held firm, his dignity steady beneath silent scrutiny. Subscribe and hit like. Our powerful stories add years to your life. Join our Story Lovers Club and let us know in the comments, where are you listening from? Clara returned with a colleague and demanded Ethan's documents again. Ethan handed over his mother's letter. Clara examined it, skepticism clear in her face. Before declaring, she needed to keep the note for records. Ethan politely protested, stating his mother had checked all the airline policies. Clara's grip hardened as she seized the letter, then tore it in two. The sound echoed in the quiet cabin. Ethan's eyes welled with tears. Humiliation burned in his chest. Passengers, shocked, began to speak up. What started as quiet shame quickly gathered into something more: collective outrage and the first stirrings of rebellion. Ethan took a shaky breath and tried to steady himself, clinging to the backpack that now felt heavier than ever. He fought the urge to cry, determined to remain composed. Around him, a few passengers murmured concerns, some pulling out phones to record the incident. The atmosphere shifted from luxury to tension. Ethan remembered his mother's words and straightened his posture, trying to reclaim the dignity Clara attempted to take. The elderly woman near him leaned across the aisle, offering a tissue and a gentle smile. Ethan accepted it, whispering his thanks, grateful for any kindness in that moment of embarrassment. Clara, still adamant that Ethan did not belong, began arguing with her colleagues and passengers who challenged her actions. "He must have forged something," she insisted, her voice tight. Derek, another attendant, checked Ethan's documents and quietly assured everyone that everything was in order. Passengers pressed Clara for an explanation, and tension in the cabin built higher. Ethan sat silent, listening to the whirl of adult voices debating his right to be there. It felt unreal, like the comfort and promise of his journey had been replaced with suspicion and conflict that grew louder with each passing minute. As the plane continued westward, news of the incident started spreading online. Passengers posted videos and descriptions, their outrage echoing across social media platforms. Ethan's quiet defiance struck a chord. People shared stories of dignity, childhood, and unfair treatment, calling out the airline's responsibility. Ethan glanced around and saw complete strangers standing up on his behalf. He was overwhelmed by both gratitude for their support and sadness that such help was needed. His mother's note, now destroyed, remained vivid in his mind, its message calling him to remain kind and strong even as he faced injustice. The captain was alerted to the unrest. He stepped out from the cockpit and calmly asked Ethan about what happened. Ethan explained, voice clear and honest, recounting how Clara tore his mother's letter. The captain listened, then spoke to Clara, reminding her that compassion was crucial, especially in moments of misunderstanding. He apologized to Ethan and assured him that the airline took such issues seriously. This act of official empathy was a small balm for Ethan's wounded pride, but it also signaled to everyone else that his story mattered. More passengers began sharing their support, bridging divides with kindness. The flight attendant team, now divided, retreated to the galley for a tense discussion. Passengers whispered encouragement to Ethan, some sharing their own experiences of feeling excluded. Ethan clung to the conversation and solidarity, feeling both courage and exhaustion. Though shaken, he sensed he had become the center of an unfolding event much larger than himself. In that moment, Ethan realized dignity was not just inherited, it was claimed, even in the face of humiliation. The remaining hours of the flight grew heavier, yet each passing minute brought new voices and small gestures of hope, surrounding Ethan like a protective embrace. When the plane landed in Los Angeles, Ethan felt both relief and anxiety. The cabin was quiet as the doors opened. Ethan collected his belongings carefully. As he stood to leave, several passengers offered him gentle smiles or words of support. The elderly woman who had comforted him earlier squeezed his hand softly, wishing him courage. Camera phones captured these moments. Clara kept her distance, eyes nervous but defiant. The captain walked Ethan to the arrivals area, assuring him again that apologies had been filed and that steps would be taken. Ethan nodded, grateful but still unsettled. Out in the arrivals hall, Ethan's Aunt Margaret rushed to greet him, embracing him warmly. She noticed the tension in his shoulders and the dried tears on his cheek, asking what had happened. Ethan explained quietly. Aunt Margaret comforted him and then spoke firmly to the airline representative waiting nearby, demanding a formal apology. News crews, already informed by viral posts, had begun gathering. Ethan was protected by his aunt, yet he felt exposed, unsure how much of his pain should be shared or hidden. Still, Margaret reminded him, sharing the truth could help others too. That evening, Ethan's story appeared online and on television broadcasts nationwide. The footage inside the plane circulated rapidly, stirring debates about race, prejudice, and dignity in public spaces. The Wallace family released a statement. Ethan acted with remarkable self-possession in the face of unjust treatment. No child should ever have their dignity denied. Airlines faced pressure to review staff training. Support flooded social media. Messages from strangers, celebrities, former airline passengers, all calling for justice and accountability. Ethan read some comments with his mother, feeling a wave of pride, but also vulnerability. The next day, VeraJet's executives apologized publicly and suspended Clara pending investigation. They pledged to change their training, emphasizing respect and inclusion. Ethan was invited to share his viewpoint, but his mother decided it was best for him to focus on healing. Interviews could wait. Schoolmates and teachers sent notes of support, some recalling their own uneasy experiences with bias. Ethan's pain softened under so much encouragement. He began to understand his ordeal was now a catalyst, an opportunity to help others insist on kindness and fairness, demanding respect where it had once been withheld. Days passed, and Ethan continued to process the incident, comforted by his family's love and solidarity from strangers. The Wallace family set up a foundation to support children facing discrimination and advocate for better airline policies. Ethan's name became a symbol of quiet strength and integrity. Community leaders invited him to events, urging him to tell his story when he was ready. Ethan realized that true dignity was found not in silence, but in the courage to speak up, and in choosing compassion over bitterness. His first solo journey was changed forever, but so too was the world around him. Over the next few weeks, Ethan's life slowly returned to normal. He went back to school, now a little more watchful of the world, but still hopeful. Some classmates approached him shyly, expressing pride and admiration. One student confided that she, too, had felt wrongly judged and alone once. Their quiet conversation helped Ethan heal a little more. Though the incident weighed on him, he found peace in simple routines, finishing homework, playing basketball, and sharing meals with his mother and aunt. Each day, the scar of that flight faded, replaced by gentle confidence. Meanwhile, the Wallace family's new foundation gained support. Volunteers donated time and money, inspired by Ethan's story. The foundation partnered with airlines, offering workshops to teach empathy and celebrating diversity. Ethan's mother led some meetings, sharing her wisdom. Real change comes when we listen to each other. Ethan occasionally attended, always quietly, learning to use his voice with care. Local journalists interviewed supporters who praised the Wallace family for turning pain into progress. To Ethan, making things right was both a responsibility and a gift, a way to honor his mother's faith in him. Months later, the airline fully implemented training reforms and publicly thanked Ethan for his courage. The captain from the Vera jet flight sent Ethan a handwritten note apologizing again and commending his composure. In time, Clara also wrote an apology, admitting her mistake and promising to change. Ethan decided to forgive her, knowing anger would only weigh him down. Forgiveness, he realized, was yet another form of dignity, a way to move forward without carrying bitterness. The Wallace family's story inspired more people to act kindly, proving that even small voices can change hearts. On the anniversary of his journey, Ethan joined his family at a community event honoring young leaders. He was introduced not just as the boy from the plane, but as someone who stood for dignity, truth, and kindness. Speaking briefly, Ethan shared what he had learned. When the world is unfair, we still get to choose how we react. We can be strong together. Applause filled the room, and Ethan finally felt the burden of his memory lifting. Through his ordeal, he had grown, not just tougher, but braver and more hopeful than ever before. Ethan's experience never left him, but over the years, it became a source of motivation rather than a wound. The Wallace Family Foundation flourished. Ethan helped lead workshops for children, teaching them how to stay proud, kind, and honest, even when the world challenges them. Through his story, he reminded others, dignity doesn't break when tested. It grows stronger, and every journey, no matter how hard, becomes meaningful when we choose love and courage. In the glow of new beginnings, Ethan smiled, knowing his mother's words would always lead him home.